Okay, hi everybody. My name's Al. I work with Cleanlites Recycling. We're a new partner for the ORM division of Kraft Foods, and we're going to hopefully be taking a lot of your universal waste recycling from now into the future. I think you'll find that our service is really helpful, and I just wanted to go over a couple things today so that we're all on the same page in terms of getting everything shipped okay, everything containerized properly, and that we're following all the right rules and regulations. And this is a webinar, so this is recorded. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to email me. My contact information can be provided at the end of this presentation. All right, let's move on to slide 1 here. So we are Cleanlites Recycling. You may have seen us around. We do a lot of work for Kraft Foods already. We're handling your e-waste currently, but we also now are transitioning to take universal waste, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So hopefully by the end of this, we'll be able to have provided a comprehensive look at the scope of our program, gone over containerization and safety, discussed billing, questions. I don't know if we're going to get to that today, but like I said, emailing questions is totally fine. And then we can also take a look at the web portal, which we'll talk about. Question 1, what qualifies as universal waste? I'll read this. Universal waste are specific hazardous waste streams that a generator can choose to manage in an alternative manner in place of the more complex hazardous waste requirements. These wastes are generated by numerous businesses, typically in small quantities. The universal waste rule are intended to promote recycling as well as proper disposal by easing certain regulatory requirements. Basically, all you need to know is that universal waste constitutes things, most of the time it's lamps and ballast, as well as batteries and mercury devices. Those are the big four. And handling it as universal waste is not only more cost effective, it's actually more sustainable. And I think you'll find that with us it's actually very, very easy as well. So in the case of Kraft, like we said, this is a detailed list, and it includes waste batteries of all types, waste ballasts, waste bulbs, and mercury-containing devices. For the vast majority of your plants, you're going to be mostly encountering batteries and bulbs, and pretty much we're just going to be covering how to containerize those properly in this presentation. What is not universal waste? Here are some things that we detailed. These are things that Safety Clean is taking for you guys. So waste ink, lab chemicals, aerosol cans, oil, other hazardous waste. We don't take that at this time. So for now, we're just going to stick to what we discussed earlier. Maybe in the future that might change. Scheduling a pickup. So this is the first step for any of you guys if you have a bunch of light bulbs. Let's just assume that they're already containerized. We're going to go over that later. But once you're done with all that stuff, this is the first kind of step. You're going to go to http://craft.cleanlights.com. That is important that you don't put a www before that. That's our web portal. It's a little place that is sanctioned off on our website that you guys can go schedule pickups. You can also watch this presentation, and there's also contact information and some other helpful resources there. So to schedule a pickup, that is where you would go first. You would then schedule a pickup by selecting what type of waste you're trying to recycle. This picture here is what our portal looks like, and the circle is what you'd click for universal waste pickup. Part 2, the order form. This is pretty much what the order form looks like. There will be some small changes. We ask that you try and fill out as completely as possible. If there's not a relevant item, you can leave it blank. But the more details we have, the better that we can make it seamless for a pickup. At the top here, you'll see your facility information. We ask that you provide all of that relevant information and make sure that you're choosing the right manager for that stuff, because a lot of times people have been filling it out. The contact name and email address is totally different from the person that actually is going to be handling it. So I would put the person that is going to be there to see the pickup through, so there's no confusion. Inventorying items is pretty straightforward. The most important part of this is just having the number of pallets and the estimated weight. That is going to help us the most in determining what kind of truck to send, when to send it, whether we need to send extra boxes, etc. So please try and make sure that's filled out, have an estimate of the weight as well as the pallet count. Hitting submit at the bottom will send 3 copies. Number 1 will be sent to us, a second copy will be sent to you for your records, and a third copy will be sent to the administrator of this program, so either Susan or whoever Susan wants me to send it to, so that there's a kind of a redundancy there just in case one of us misses it or loses it. So once again, if you hit submit, that's where it will go. If you hit submit by accident, then just go ahead and fill it out again and we'll ignore the first one. No harm done. Okay, so after that is done, it sets into motion a pretty simple but important process. We get the email, and then we have dedicated transportation coordinators that will review your order, make sure it's all good to go, and then call you to find a good date and time that is good for the pickup. We'll send you some paperwork via email that would include a bill of lading as well as shipping labels that you will be placing on the pallet. Those are important that you would provide a decent email address for, and as long as that's the case, that's going to be totally fine. And we want to make sure that you have that paperwork on hand, ready to go when our driver shows up at your facility. They're pretty good about giving instructions on that as well, so whenever you do it, someone will kind of walk you through it. Pickup coordination. Cleanlites uses its own fleet of trucks within 200 miles, so if you're close to one of our facilities, you'll see a Cleanlites truck. If not, we'll use a third-party carrier. Those are carriers that you might see on the road like R&L, FedEx, Saia, etc. We'll make sure that everything is totally good with your security gate. We'll make sure that everything that the drivers have specific instructions. Hasn't been a problem yet, and I don't foresee it being too big of a problem in the future. Okay, moving on to containerization and safety. I would call this the most important part of the entire discussion here. So if you've been tuning out, I'd ask you to tune back in, and hopefully we can get through this pretty quickly. This will also be detailed over here on your web portal, so if you want to review this, again, you can, but let me just say to start out that if stuff isn't containerized properly, it just becomes a really big problem for everybody. There's huge cost involved. There is a massive amount of work that we have to do if something is containerized improperly, and it just turns into something that nobody likes to deal with. So if you follow these rules, I promise that you'll never have a problem. So basic universal waste rules, you can look this up online, but all of this waste needs to be containerized with no open containers. Everything has to be labeled, and generally speaking, in your facilities, you cannot have stuff accumulating for more than a year. So most EPA people, when they walk through, they want to see your label on the waste and the accumulation start date. That's a very important point. So containers that we supply, you see right here, the most common ones would be these 4-foot boxes and 8-foot boxes. What we do is when you need extra boxes, you can send them, send in an order form to us. We then FedEx them, flatten to you. You build them, tape them, accumulate them, make sure you write the start date on there, and they hold all different types of things, straight lamps as well as the LEDs, all that good stuff. Ballast, batteries, mercury articles, those are going in the 55-gallon drum. The 5-gallon pail has ballast batteries, mercury articles as well, some CFL bulbs. Those are better for small orders. We also supply Gaylords, or cubic yard boxes. That's more for our e-waste, but you can also fit toners in there. You can fit ballasts, CFLs I've seen in there too. So those are all things you can order through us, through our website, and we will deliver them. Container volumes. This kind of details how many lamps will fit into each box. This will be for review for you guys if you need to, but just know that we do have pretty specific numbers that, so we don't want you to cram them in there. We want you to calculate how many boxes you're going to need. The same goes for these guys. The max weight for a drum is around 800 pounds. The max weight for one of these smaller guys is around 70 pounds. Types of batteries. So let's get into a little bit more of the details of recycling and containerization. We'll start with batteries, then we'll move on to bulbs. So first of all, batteries, we kind of divide them up on our end into two sections, wet cell and dry cell. As you can see, the dry cell is a little more diverse types. The wet cell has more or less just one type. I'm sure everyone's seen a car battery. There's ones that look a lot like that are also wet cell. There's different rules for each different type, and we'll go into those. Regular terminals. So we'll talk about taping first of all. Actually, let's go on. So let's start with the wet cell requirements. So this is pretty straightforward by the graphic. We want you to make sure that you're taping the terminals off so that the chemicals do not interfere with each other. If you're stacking these and you have a bunch, like a lot of people have forklift batteries and stuff like that, we ask that you don't stack any higher than 3. We ask that you put a layer of cardboard in between each stack, and that it is all shrink wrapped with no metal banding. The metal will act as a catalyst for the batteries, and it's a huge mess and a fire hazard as well. Let's move on here to the dry cell requirements. We'd ask that all dry cells are in sealed containers. That includes 55-gallon drums or the smaller 1-gallon pails, all of which we do provide. We have this battery box here too, which you guys are welcome to order. We put those in office spaces, behind desks, stuff like that, just for like smaller collections, but we can actually accept that. We have to consolidate that into one of these guys. So now we can go back to the wet or the dry cell kind of things here. So taping is important for certain types of batteries, and this is your method for your dry cells, how you would tape them. It's pretty straightforward. So the dry cell requirements. So this is kind of your important aspect here. This is an important take-home point. We have 3 different categories for our batteries. Number 1 is anything that's lithium, regardless of the voltage, regardless of the size, needs to be taped, needs to be segregated. So if it says lithium on there, or if you look up the number on there, it's lithium, we need to make sure that's the case because that is a fire hazard if it is not taped. 9 volt and under, those are harmless household batteries more or less, so we do not need you to tape them, and they can be commingled. You can see that picture there is from our facility actually, and they look fine in there. Anything over 9 volt absolutely needs to be taped, but can be commingled, so you can throw that in with a bigger thing, but it needs to be taped terminals. The higher voltage is a little bit of higher risk. All right, moving on to lamps. Lamps can be placed in our boxes, or if you have existing boxes, those can be used too, as long as they're not exposed. We ask that you can count the lamps if you have time and write the quantity on the outside of the box. That's not a requirement. We recount them as they enter our facility, but it might help you in keeping track. We ask that you secure boxes with tape. It's just any kind of masking tape, duct tape works fine. Place the universal waste label clearly on the outside of the box. You can see right here on this picture that we have a nice label there. Multiple boxes have to be stacked, palletized, and shrink wrapped, which you can see in the background here. These are great looking boxes. This is exactly what we want. Broken lamps must be placed in separate container labeled broken lamps. We can still ship those as non-hazardous waste because they were broken in transit, but we do need to make sure that it's labeled. Okay, speaking of labeling, universal waste label. This is our what our universal waste label looks like. You can see here what we have. You can't really see well, but There's a place to fill out the address, which we can fill out for you, and then the accumulation start date you write in here, and you kind of check off what kind of waste you have. We ask that every container have at least 2 labels on it, just so that, in case one is not showing because it's on the wrong side, that it can be seen at all times. That's something the EPA is very adamant about. Everything has to be very obviously labeled. And like I said, you can order these labels through our website. You can call and ask us to send you some, and there's a whole lot of easy ways to get them. So there's no excuses not to have them on there. Here's a better example of what you might want to do with your labels. You can see the picture there. Oh, here's where you would order containers. At the bottom of your order form online, you'll see there you can ask for labels. We'll send them to you. We just send them via FedEx, and it's pretty easy. They should arrive in a couple days. So we went over containerization. We went over ordering and shipping. We went over a lot of the safety requirements. Finally, PO and billing information. This is important. We want to make sure that all facilities, before placing an order, issue a purchase order for the total. If you need a quote from us, we're more than happy to give you an estimate. But we do need a PO number for every order that you do. This is going to help Cleanlites and Kraft take care of this and figure out our costs. And so it'd be very appreciated. And if there's a way that I can facilitate that easier, I'm more than happy to hear suggestions. So once again, questions. Obviously, I am not actually here. Susan can probably provide you with my email address or my direct line, either one. If you guys have questions, I'm more than happy to answer it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope I didn't go too fast, but I know you guys have a lot to do, so thanks.